Hello, gang. Can you believe it is August the 1st? I needed to look at the newspaper just to assure myself. How we doing? Are we assembling a quorum? May I tell you, Fabrizio, you're the first that I see, along with Sean Nichols. Hello, Sean, and Matt Adams, driving no less in New York City. Hi, Jamal. How are you, sir? Matt Nicholas in Chicago. Tom Rogers. Hello, Tom. Nice to see you. Thomas Duvernay from Korea, or so he says. Hey, you want to know a subject that I'm not going to talk about today on CNN? The Veep stakes. I will not be talking about the Veep stakes. And here's the reason I will not be talking about the Veep stakes. I don't think Joe Biden is going to select his vice presidential candidate this week. And I'm so limited. I get either 4 or 5 segments on a CNN program, and it's a rough decision to try and decide how do I want to use my time. And in the end, I decided that this was not a pressing issue because he's not going to pull the trigger. And I first started to say so on radio, I think it was last Wednesday. Joe Biden had a presser in Wilmington and took questions. And he did it at the same time that there was a very contentious hearing taking place on Capitol Hill. And so we talked on radio about, well, why would he do it at a time when there was a lot of focus on Capitol Hill? And I said, well, that's why he would do it, because he doesn't want the focus on himself. This thing is just cruising along at a good clip for Joe Biden. Slow and steady wins the race. That's the sort of thing I was saying. Anyway, in the presser, Biden was asked about his vice presidential selection process. And last Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday, you can fact check me on this, he said, I will be making my selection known the first week of August. And that struck me as odd, because today, as evidenced by the newspaper, is August 1st. And if last week he was intent on, you're going to think I'm crazy for drawing such a semantic difference here, but so be it. It's what I do, right? If last Wednesday he was intent on naming his vice presidential pick the first week of August, he wouldn't have said, I'll be announcing it the first week of August. He would have said, I'll be announcing my pick next week. So that's what got me saying he's not doing it. He's not doing it yet. Okay, so maybe I'll be proven wrong this week. We'll see. I doubt it. Something else that I see now developing, and I wonder if this has slowed the process, and it's this. There are a number of stories now being written that are reporting on why it shouldn't be this one or it shouldn't be that one. For example, the Sacramento Bee, which you would consider to be the hometown newspaper, or at least one of the hometown newspapers for Kamala Harris, has an editorial that we are posting at Smerconish.com, and it will be in the newsletter today. The editorial from the Sacramento Bee says it shouldn't be Kamala Harris. Yeah, the hometown newspaper for Kamala Harris says it shouldn't be Kamala Harris. We know Kamala Harris. You know who'd be better? Karen Bass. So I thought, oh, this is interesting, and there's been a lot of buzz about Karen Bass recently, but go to other media outlets, and you will see that now, albeit 47 years ago, but now Karen Bass's visit to Cuba with an organization that at one time an association knocked somebody out of contention for a Bill Clinton cabinet position. But people are now saying, hey, she was too supportive of the Castro regime, and this will hurt Biden's chances in Florida if it's Karen Bass. So you say, geez, maybe this is all good news for Karen Rice. Pardon me, did I say Karen Rice? I'm thinking of Karen Bass and Susan Rice. Susan Rice. But then you go to Dana Milbank in the Washington Post today, who says, if Biden is actually considering Rice for the job, I suspect the boomlet is more about building her profile for another future post. It would be a costly mistake. Don't get me wrong, Biden would be better than President Trump even if he put the General Secretary of Antifa on the ticket. And Rice's CV is impressive. Stanford, Rhodes Scholar, Assistant Secretary of State at 32, UN Ambassador. But at a time when Americans have suffered greatly from a famously pugilistic leader with no electoral experience who embraces public profanity and petty insults, Americans want healing and calm. Why would Biden tap a Veep and put a heartbeat from the presidency, a human lightning rod? I don't think of Susan Rice as a human lightning rod, but my point really isn't about the merit of each of them. My point is that it's funny to me, funny in an interesting way, that as we're getting close to Joe Biden making his pick, albeit not this week, the first week of August, it seems to be turning into rapidly a who is least bad. Or the old Hippocratic Oath line, which of these women, because it's going to be a female, would do no harm. So I'm really interested in it, but it's not timely. So I shall not be focused on it today. I'm focused on it here for the benefit of all of you on Facebook Live. Let me tell you what does interest me. Did you see the provocative title that I put on this Facebook Live right under the screen or right at the top of the screen? I don't know where it ultimately shows up. Here's the question that I'm asking, and I'm sure that this will melt down the Twitter mob simply by asking the question of, oh, he's in the tank for Trump. We knew it. I'm asking the question, how can Joe Biden be so far ahead if Donald Trump is winning swing voters? How can both of those things be true? And you've heard me on radio, and thank you for listening on POTUS, you've heard me on radio talk about and talk to Rich Tao. Rich Tao is a guy with a firm, nonpartisan, called Engageus, and he has done 17 swing voter focus groups in the last year plus. 17 different locations. Swing states, swing voters. You know, people, this always boggles the mind, but people who went for Romney and then went for Hillary, or they went for Obama and then they went for Trump. And he puts them in a room, and they're not scientifically significant because it's a small group of people, but they're qualitatively important. And he'll tell you on television today, in every one of the 17, with one exception, Erie, Pennsylvania, which was 2 focus groups ago, the focus group voters say we are sticking with Trump. They have been most recently, because for a lot of the focus groups it was unclear who the nominee would be, they have been most recently questioning Biden's cognitive abilities and whether he will be controlled by far-left influences around him. You know, like he's a shell of a man. This is not Michael speaking. This is what Rich Tao is being told in focus groups, that Biden is a shell of his former self, and therefore it's going to be Schumer and Nancy and AOC and the squad who will control him. If he heard this at 5 or 10 or 12 of the focus groups, I'd treat it as a curiosity. But the fact is, he's heard it at 16 of the 17, including in Macomb County, Michigan, last week. So I got to believe there's something to it. Okay, that's Rich Tao talking about swing voters. Then you have Dr. Rachel Bittikoffer. Dr. Bittikoffer, who nailed the 2018 midterm election, did better than most, if not all, of the prognosticators and pundits. And Dr. Bittikoffer says, hey, you got it all wrong. Not that the swing voters are wrong, not that Rich Tao's information is wrong, but you've got it all wrong if you think that this election is going to be an election decided by swing voters. It's not. It's going to be, they matter less in partisan, polarized times like we're living in now. And instead, again, I'm paraphrasing, she'll speak for herself on my CNN show today. This is a turnout election. This is a passion election. Both things can be true. That Donald Trump is getting the swing voters who show up at a Rich Tao Engageous focus group, but that Joe Biden is so far ahead. And I've got all the data here today of the latest polls, both national and swing states, and they all tell the same story. It's not as if there's a one-off that we're relying on. The data is telling a constant story, which is one of Biden today, August 1, winning really big. And obviously a lot of things are going to change. And you know how you know the data is believed by not only the Biden campaign, but also by the Trump campaign? It's because the Trump campaign has demoted Brad Parscale. The Trump campaign stopped spending in Michigan. The Trump campaign, this is unheard of, is right now dark on television. That's stunning. That is absolutely stunning. You go dark on television when you're about to get out of the race. No, I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm just telling you, traditionally, you go dark when you are getting out of the race. You go dark when you are broke. You go dark when it is a holiday. You know, it's Yom Kippur and election time. And so you don't want to be disrespectful, so you go dark. Or there's a national catastrophe. God forbid, you know, there's 9/11, so you don't run your ads. The Trump campaign is dark right now. Now, they say they're dark because they got to get their message act together. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's true. I feel like I'm giving away a lot for free today. This is more like the radio show than it is Facebook Live TV prep. Anyway, the lead segment of the program today, I'm just so happy to put together Tao with his focus group data and Bittikoffer with her insight pertaining to turnout elections. And we are going to do that at the top of the show. I'm not going to do a long-winded commentary that has a point of view like I normally do. Instead, I'm just going to set it up with the polling data. How can both these things be true? That Joe Biden is losing swing voters but beating Donald Trump. All right, what else am I going to do today? Speaking of Biden, Joe Lockhart was press secretary for 2 years for Bill Clinton. So he writes a piece for CNN this week. And in the piece, he said that Biden is comfortably ahead, but that Trump can still win, and that Trump can win if Biden screws up. Nothing really unique about that. But here was a provocative paragraph in Joe Lockhart's essay. Whatever you do, he writes, whatever you do, don't debate Trump. Trump has now made more than 20,000 misleading or false statements. According to the Washington Post, it's a fool's errand to enter the ring with someone who can't follow the rules or the truth. Biden will undoubtedly take heat from Republicans and the media for skipping the debates, but it's worth the risk, as trying to debate someone incapable of telling the truth is an impossible contest to win. Whoa, wait a minute. Can Joe Biden really seek an exit route and not debate Donald Trump? What are the political dynamics of that? Is he not, and here's the survey question of the day at Smerconish.com, is he not obligated? I don't mean contractually, but I mean you run for president of the United States. Are you not obligated to show up on a debate stage? Or, as Lockhart says, don't do it. Trump does nothing but lie. 20,000 misleading or false statements. Why give him, the stage? I mean, think about the dynamics of this. If Joe Biden said he were not going to debate Donald Trump, you know that the Trump response would be, see that? It's confirmation of what we've been saying about Joe has missed a step. And that would be the mantra. So Biden believes he's in the lead right now. I'm sure, Biden would be thrilled if there were no debates. but can he politically take the risk of finding some excuse not to be on that stage? I'm going to talk to Joe Lockhart about that today. Looking forward to that conversation. Two other things. When there's a vaccine, who's first in line? When there's a vaccine, who will be first in line? And you say, well, healthcare workers and those on the front lines, absolutely. Teachers, yes, absolutely. Should race be an issue? If African Americans are disproportionately dying of COVID-19, and they are, largely because of the jobs they hold, should they be given a higher standing in line than people who are not black? How about the obese? If you're at heightened risk of COVID-19, and that includes not only people who are older, but people who are obese, should they be prioritized? Is it fair to somebody who maybe right now is watching this video live or on their own time later today and is on a treadmill? Are you watching me at the gym right now and you're saying, wait a minute, I'm out here working my tuchus off? And somebody who doesn't care for the, quote, care for themselves is going to get a higher position in line? That doesn't sound right. There are some really interesting questions to be, oh, and what about financial status? In Pennsylvania, I was just reading that with regard to remdesivir, economic status is a consideration as to where you stand in line. And then finally, something has changed pertaining to UFOs. UFOs are no longer the stuff of cranks. UFOs are no longer the sort of thing that I remember going to the movies as a kid at the County Theater in Doylestown. And on a Saturday when we go in there for a matinee, and by the way, I think about this sometimes, like all hell would break loose in terms of throwing candy and popcorn. Every matinee movie ended up with just popcorn fights and candy, what would they have been? Like Raisinets. I wasn't throwing them, oh no, but others were throwing them. But there would be these movies that would like short films about Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster or Area 51. In that era, it was always the stuff of cranks. Not anymore. Not anymore. And that's a subject that I will pursue today with a gentleman with some expert in the subject area. All right, I've gone on way longer than I normally do. Got a lot of stuff on my mind right now that you can tell is going to be a part of today's show. A couple of things, if I may. Please go vote on the survey question at Smerconish.com. We just put it up. Is Joe Biden obligated to debate Donald Trump? That's number one. Number two, I put a lot of time into my research and issue selection for both radio and television. You can have the benefit of my research free. No hook. Free. Every day. All you have to do is register for my newsletter, like 25,000 other people have already done. The newsletter is only 3 months old. We've been doing it just in the era of COVID. And finally, go give TC some play with her latest installment. It's episode number 9 of TC After Dark, wherever you get your podcasts. I think at this stage, she's going to make it to episode 17. So I will have to be her guest, but not for several more episodes. Have a wonderful, safe day. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you in an hour and 10 minutes on CNN. Did I mention that today is August the 1st? Holy smokes. See you, everybody.